Hello again, Jorge. It's,
Hey,
it's
I'm
good
happy
to
to
see
be
you.
here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Just for a little context for our viewers, this is Jorge. Jorge is going to be one of the students in our Art of Circling journey for the 2025-2026 cohort. And he has graciously volunteered to let you guys have a little inside sneak peek on his growth, his experiences, his development as he journeys through the course. And so he, along with a handful of other students, will be joining us every couple of months to share about his experiences. How are you feeling about that in general, Jorge?
There's a lot of excitement. I generally like sharing about stuff that I like. So
Mhm.
that's very exciting. And at the same time, there's like a sense of vulnerability, but also like a little bit of performance anxiety. Like, oh, I hope people get excited from this. So
Yeah.
I can see that because I would love that. There's like
Uh,
something in me that's a bit nervous.
yeah. So you're feeling a
Yeah.
little bit nervous, but it's an excited nervous, and you're like wanting people to. Well, you didn't say you were like wanting people to enjoy you, but you're kind of like wanting people to get something out of these
Yeah.
talks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You're
It's
wanting to
like a
serve. Yeah.
almost like a sense of responsibility here. Like, oh, I wish I can share like really how it's been for me in a
Yeah.
way that feels impactful as it has
Yeah.
been. Yeah.
I love how you're already feeling a sense of responsibility of like, oh, this like, these workshops have been so impactful for me. I hope that I can convey that, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And that's what makes me feel nervous. It's more like this sense of like, oh, I want to live up to this thing, how it feels internally. I wish it comes out this way.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'll tell people a little bit about the Circling Approach and the Circling Institute, but first, let's let them hear a little bit about you. If you want to just give us kind of like, a little biographical info, even
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're starting out,
definitely.
like who you are, what you do, even if you want to let people know like what your generation or age bracket you're in, and and tell us a little bit of what draws you not only to the Art of Circling program, but what draws you to this type of, personal growth, relating, communication work in general?
Yeah. A lot of things to speak of there.
Mhm.
My name is Jorge, we already said that. I'm 29.
Mhm.
I live in Mexico City at the moment, usually live in Mazunte in Mexico.
Mhm.
Um, I live there because part of the things I do, I teach yoga and I teach meditation. I'm also a software developer, I say on the side, although that's really my full-time job, but it feels like the thing I do on the side.
Mhm.
Yeah, I started dwelling in relational practices a few years ago. I grew up very shy. Like I was really, by training, I'm a mathematician, I'm a software developer. I was always like the stereotypical person in the computer. And then at one point I moved to this yoga community where everyone's like touchy and eye gazing for 7 minutes to say hello. And there was just this way of relating that was very confronting to me.
Mhm.
And then at one point, just starting relating with someone, I fell in love. We traveled together, and she had been for a couple of years doing circling, authentic relating, and I just found myself many times in conversations where I felt like she was doing something to me. Like a point, really, it felt very fierce. Like she was almost pulling like stuff out of me that I would not feel comfortable saying, or that just made me realize like wow, I'm really living from this space of not allowing myself to just be with what is,
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
after a couple of years of living in this meditation center, sitting silently, kind of the taste of okay, it's one thing to be with my thoughts and accept that, but when I actually have to like bring them up and tell this person like, oh, like right now actually I'm terrified of that you will just I don't know, like cut connection with me if I say this thing.
Yeah.
It was like a different taste. Like it felt
Yes.
more edgy, but also when I did do it, it felt there was just such a relief, like something could really settle in me.
Mm.
So I started getting into that, slowly doing whatever I could, a little bit of online, in-person events, and then I just really got into it. I have a tendency, some of my friends, I remember when I first came back to the city this year, because I come every summer or so, and I thought one of my friends like, oh, I'm doing this thing now. It's called circling. And he said, let me guess, and now you're founding the Latin American Association because now it's your thing. So I tend to really, when I like something, just go full into it.
Hmm.
So I started doing that, and it's just been great in the sense of no seeing how it's a skill that really usually I'm very heady and I go for like becoming things that good at things that I can just do with my mind. But this feels something that it's actually a thing I do, not just like knowledge I gather. So that's
Yes.
been great.
You have to live it. You have to be it. You
Exactly.
can't, you can feel the difference when someone's like applying the tools to you rather than like embodying the tools with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And even when I find myself doing the first one, I can also feel that
Yes,
difference.
yes, you can feel a difference in yourself. And I really appreciated how you said, like, at first it was scary, like she was pulling this like vulnerable information out of you, and it was like nervous. But then you realized it felt like a relief of like, oh, wait, I was able to share these fears and these innermost thoughts and these ideas, and nothing bad happened. And then
Yeah.
I imagine that, I mean, you didn't say that explicitly, but I imagine it helped the relationship become much deeper and closer and more intimate. The more you are able, like you said, like in meditation, I'm able to touch these things for myself, but through your authentic relating and circling approach skills and tools, then you are able to like bring them out and share them with another person in a way that could be accepted and understood. And that's a whole nother level of relating.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And even in bringing them out with someone else, it's like you said that the relationship itself grew closer, and
Mhm.
also even my own skill to like accept those things.
Oh,
Suddenly
wait,
there's
to
I
accept
just
about yourself.
yeah, exactly. It's like something about really saying like this uncomfortable thing is going on and putting it out there instead of like keeping it in just gives it
Mm,
like it's kind of like the embodied version of accepting it somehow. It's
yes,
yeah.
yes. It's funny, like I can't remember. I think it might be Daniel Siegel who coined the term in psychology. You have to name it to tame it. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the relational extension of that, of like, oh, when I'm nervous and scared about these things about myself, and then I share that with someone else and they are held and accepted, I start to accept these pieces of myself even more. And I feel less shame and judgment about myself in
Yeah,
this we space and in this relational connection. Wow,
yeah,
that's
exactly like that.
beautiful. Yeah, it's a wonderful example of what we do. Okay, so for their viewers, I'll pause for a second and I'll just kind of remind everybody that at the Circling Institute, we teach tools and skills that help people deepen their capacities for communication and connection. Communicating, connection with yourself, connection with those around you, and then communicating your innermost thoughts and feelings to those around you, and having them communicate with you. So not only are you learning to listen better, but you're also learning, how to ask, clarifying and curious questions, ask deepening questions. So that people are able to take kind of like everyday standard information exchange or surface interactions and make them deeper, richer, more intimate, more connecting. And some people take our courses for professional growth because they are coaches or teachers or managers or therapists. And some people take them for personal growth, because they want to become a better friend, a better partner, a better parent. Um, and our programs provide opportunities to stretch and grow in both of those areas. And so that's kind of what we do. And I like to tease that the Art of Circling program that Jorge will be a part of is a professional development program wrapped in a personal growth program and then tucked into a mastermind group. Because the cohort of like-minded individuals that you will be working with over the next several months, you not only do you support each other in the workshops that meet every 6 or 8 weeks, but you meet weekly in these practice pods to support each other's growth and practice and development. And so like for me, there's nothing better than adding a invested community to practice with to the training program. Like the training program alone will get you so far, but if you don't have like a safe and invested community to practice what you're learning with, you're going to hit a ceiling at some point, or you're going to hit a plateau at some point, and that's why it's designed this way. And so I hope that you will have that experience and enjoy that experience this year as well, Jorge.
Thank you, Corinne. I'm very excited because, yeah, practice is really the moment of feeling the aliveness of the thing. Really, when I'm with someone and we're circling, or I'm just like sneakily getting deep into conversation with them, that's one of the things I enjoy the most. So I'm very excited.
Lovely. No, I'm excited for you as well. Okay, so what should we share with our community today? Um, well, let's start here, if you can, Jorge. Like, if you had to describe like what the circling approach means to you, or what happens in a circle to, like one of your friends who is curious about like why you're so passionate about this, what would you say? What would you tell them?
At this point in my life, I really wish I had a set answer that I go to, because people ask me that, and every time I think like, oh, I should really like already have like a
Like
script
your
for.
elevator pitch.
Yeah, but let's see what comes out. What I really enjoy about circling is I've found it is like a moment of a practice of presence that feels intersubjective. There is a specific taste of like we're here when we're here with whatever arises here, in a way that what I enjoy is I get to fully sometimes just see the other person, and truly it feels like the not the goal, but like the process is leading us to like build this sense of like, yeah, we're getting each other. There's like a sense of understanding. Because I notice that a lot of times I speak words and like I assume the other person knows what I mean, or I assume that I know what they mean. And then it's kind of not there.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and then just allowing myself to go really into like, oh, but whatever you said, you're sad. Like how is that? Like how is it that you're actually feeling? What's in your body? What's like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And then sometimes it turns out it's a completely different experience from what I assumed at first. But
Hmm.
there's a moment in which like something clicks, and it's like, ah, yeah, that's the thing. And then there's like an experience of now we're in the thing together.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and that's what I really like about that, like that sense of building a bridge somehow between our experiences.
Yeah. I really like the image of the bridge. Let me see if I'm getting your experience of circling. So it sounds like one of the things that you deeply appreciate about the circling experience is, you didn't say this explicitly, but you kind of modeled it when you're talking of like there's a way that it gives you not only permission but an invitation to like slow down and get more intimate or more details, or as we might say in the software world, like more granular about it. And so we're not just satisfied, like, oh, well, I'm sad. And you're like, oh, and how is that for you? Like, how is the sadness occurring for you? Because you want to almost like a wine connoisseur, like a sommelier of personal experiences, of like, it's not just like, oh, this is nice. I enjoy it. It's a Merlot, but you're like, oh, wait. Oh yeah, I can taste smoke and leather, and like what are you tasting? Oh yeah, there's kind of like a jammy berry, but also a peppery in this. And like it's not only is there the invitation to do it, but like almost an expectation that their permission to be like, oh, and we're gonna do this. I'm not gonna just be satisfied with hearing that you're sad. Like we're gonna really squish around in it together. And then I like that's really I kind of like got goosebumps when you said it. So it's not just like they're sharing information and I'm receiving it. It's almost like I get to be in it with them. And I
Yeah.
do like that closeness, or that because it is a I don't know how to explain it to anyone who hasn't experienced it. Like it's a visceral difference. Like there's a tangible experiential difference between just listening to someone and like actually like getting into their story or their experience with them. Is that how it
Yeah,
occurs for you too?
yeah, definitely. So first I also want to highlight I love the image of the wine
Hmm.
because that's one of the things that I really like. It's like an openness to nuance and detail.
Hmm.
That makes just feel so enriching to me.
Hmm.
And this is exactly why, because that allows me to I also like the image of like being in it with them.
Hmm.
Um, and I agree with this visceral experience. There's like, and I can really, like, I've been in a couple of occasions in circles where I even, like, starting, it feels like off, like, no, we're like, it seems like we're mechanically doing the thing, or like I'm just going in conversation with someone and I'm trying to do it. And it feels like I'm saying the things and I'm like trying, but then at one point that kind of something turns. It's
Hmm.
almost like there is enough buildup of something and something releases, and then we're really there. And I can feel it. I agree with you with this like felt experience, like, yes, now it's happening.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that.
Yeah. My experience of that is like sometimes it feels like we're grinding gears and then we'll click into place and now we're like in flow with each other. Where like before we were just kind of like bumping off each other and then it's like, oh, we hit the flow, almost like a zipper. It's like, oh yeah, it got unstuck and now we're smooth.
Exactly.
That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite parts of that. And also, and I'm wondering if this has happened for you yet, it's one of my favorite parts of being able to take the tools and the skills of the circling approach out of a formal circle and into my everyday experiences of conversations with people of like I'll be at a party or I'll just be out at a family gathering and I can feel that people are just having these like you know ships in a night passing by each other conversations, and then I'll like use some questions or reflections to try to bring everyone together into like a flow state, and then you can feel like the excitement or the investment in the conversation, and like it's now an exchange of experience and ideas as opposed to just an exchange of information, but it's like a collaborative like exploration. Have you had that experience yet in trying to use these tools and bring them out into your other practices?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me give you, I have a specific story that happened to me
Hmm.
maybe 2 weeks after the Sovereign. So I
Okay.
don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I was teaching a meditation retreat in prison, and it was the first time I was doing that.
Oh.
So here I am sitting down, and I had like the stuff I wanted to talk about, but I didn't expect that the people there already had like a practice and had some other people come before and they had specific questions. So I
Hmm.
also wanted to address that.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm here and we're speaking, and I'm speaking about contentment, and then this thought comes, and I'm like, what am I doing here speaking about contentment to them?
Yeah, the
Like
prisoners. Yeah.
yeah, like some of these people told me like I've been here for 20 plus years, and it was a special program in they've gone through 12-step recovery, and then it was just like they had been doing some work, and then I realized maybe their experience of like having to confront what contentment really means and what it could be is much stronger than whatever I can bring, from my life. And when I had that thought for a moment there, I was like uncomfortable because I was sitting on the front and I was speaking. And then I just thought, well, I can sit with this uncomfortable thing, or I can just like tell them.
Yes.
And then I stopped myself and I just said, what I'm thinking right now is actually I would like to know your experience of contentment because I realize I'm sitting here. You probably know much more deeply what this means. The reality of like I have the choice of accepting or I have the choice of going crazy. So like I'd rather hear it from you. Maybe you have something to teach me in this moment. And it
Oh,
was at the same time like a moment of deep, deep humility. And like on a more, let's say, just practical level, it allowed me to drop from that thing of like, now it feels like kind of I'm in this role, I'm saying the words, I'm like giving a lecture, but we're not really connecting to like a space where we could really connect in that way and be like, yeah,
yeah.
what do you guys have to say about contentment? Like, please tell me. And this chance of like being able to express both the thing that was a little bit uncomfortable because what I was feeling was like a little bit maybe pretentious is not the right word, but kind of like fake.
Mhm.
It felt
Yeah.
like I'm not the person to be speaking of this here.
Yes.
And then realizing that and inviting like actually what if we switch roles for a moment? Let's drop the who is who,
Yes.
like let's make it into a conversation, and that was beautiful. Um,
Yes. Oh, yeah. Quite beautiful. What a powerful image and story, Jorge. And I love how you said, like, you know, that's exactly what the sovereign stage of the circling approach is about, of like, oh, I'm noticing I'm feeling a little bit like an imposter here, and I'm feeling a little bit like inauthentic or incongruent because they probably have so much more experience and a different context for this than I am. And instead of just being like, well, I'm the teacher, so I should stay here and I should just ignore this and stuff it down, you took the vulnerable step to share with them of like, actually, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable being up here teaching you about this because you probably, and you were just, you you put some skin in the game, and you opened and were vulnerable and courageous with them, and they could feel that from you, and that probably changed the whole trajectory of the event, because like now they trust you more, like you saying like, hey, I'm just realizing I'm up here like an authority, but that doesn't seem right. Like, I want to hear from you. And I bet you immediately it gave you some credibility and some trust. And had you tried to stay in that role, they might have been skeptical. And so through your sovereign share of, wait, this feels a little bit off. I'm actually feeling a little uncomfortable here speaking about this. And I'd actually like to hear from you because I imagine you have things to teach me, where that was humbling for you. It also elevated you in their eyes to being, more credible and more trustworthy. Yeah, what a beautiful, that is a perfect lived example of what we're talking about, of like when you say the scary thing, like you share that sovereign space, and not from a place of like less than or apology, but just like, yeah, this is what is occurring for me, and this is where I am in this moment. What's that like for you? What do you guys think? What do you guys want to do? And like, it's an invitation for closeness. And it
yeah,
sounds like it really paid off in spades for you.
yeah, it was beautiful. I really think after that moment there was a switch in the day and a half or so that we had in the retreat, because then people were really open just to share with me more about their own experiences. I
Hmm.
think at the beginning there was a lot of excitement, but there was also this energy that I got from them of like wanting information. And I get that. It's because I don't know how many people they get come in to
Yeah, yeah,
teach
yeah.
whatever kind of thing. But then it really shifted to like conversations about their actual experience there, and how it
Hmm.
was for them to be in prison, and how it is for them uh, when they stop getting visits from their family members. And then just the entire taste of the conversation changed.
Hmm.
And I loved how you said it was like an invitation, because that's exactly what I thought. And I did in that moment, because it was, I think I told you, it was maybe 1 week or two after the sovereign. It had just happened. So I
Hmm.
was also very grateful to be like, wait,
Wait, I
this is
have these tools. I practiced them in my own workshop a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna try them out here, and I'm gonna share them with these prisoners. And this,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to let it go by too like far before I just also acknowledge like how amazing, Jorge, that you are doing this at all. Of like, you're going into prisons and teaching, a 2-day, 3-day meditation workshop for incarcerated individuals with such an open heart and humility and an intention to serve and respect these men and like hold their stories. Just what a gift.
Thank you. I also think it's a gift for me. I'm very grateful that I get to do that.
Yeah, it does. It feels like a reciprocal gift, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Mm.
Beautiful. So, having shared that and having heard that, all right, I'm curious, like, what other gifts
Yeah.
of your person, this might be a little edgy for you to actually have to like brag on yourself a little bit, but like, what other gifts might you have, or aspects of you can our community look forward to experiencing alongside you as you share your journey through this course from us? What can they look forward to learning or hearing or watching you struggle with and vicariously learning beside you? What do you imagine other gifts you might offer our community this year?
You were right that it feels a bit edgy. Um, I think I'm a good storyteller when I feel comfortable. So I'm excited for to share just my wait, give me a moment. That's better. I'm excited to share my experience with this because I do, I mean, I don't know, it depends on what I do in the upcoming months, my lifestyle wise, because it's a little bit a mystery now.
Mhm.
But the way I choose to live in the town where I live with the yoga community and what I teach, and also like having also one foot in like the software development world and another one in like more alternative community spaces, I think I get a lot of opportunities to try this out in like completely different contexts.
Oh, yes.
Um, and I think that's one thing that it's exciting for me to share because like I have that story with the prison thing, but of course I also have like other environments and different kind of people that I work with. And then even when I bring in these tools, how it feels for me and kind of also the reaction I get from someone else is a bit different. So I
Right.
I think I get the
Oh, I
gift
love that. So
having like different arenas to try this stuff
yeah,
out.
the like the different contexts and the different styles of like, so the people like, yeah, so you've got the yoga meditation communities, but you also got the software communities, and then you've got this, like these prison experiences. So we're going to be getting anecdotal experiences or vicarious experiences with what it's like to practice these tools and skills, and this come from with a variety of different, types of people, groups of people, styles of people with different expectations and different guidelines. And it's like, oh, I'm so looking forward to like, oh, and what is it like for you to bring them like when with your yoga friends versus like your software friends versus yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that I think that community can look forward to. What else? What else comes to mind?
Hmm. I think I'm also one of the other things that I makes me excited to share. I'm pretty self-aware of like the places where I'm stuck sometimes. So like I have a lot of clarity in like, okay, these past couple of weeks maybe I struggled more with not so much with sharing, but like I was not curious at all, I was just self-centered and completely disregarded the other person. Or I'm usually very keen on noticing where I'm at in that sense. So I'm also excited to be able to share kind of where it's being tricky and challenging, and like
Yes.
how maybe even like hopefully for someone it will be like or if not, at least for me, like a little bit of a playbook, like, oh, I noticed that I was stuck here, 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 and like this thing didn't seem to move, and then this was eventually what got me out of that. And
Yes.
I'm pretty good at like keeping track, and not so much at getting out of being stuck, but at least at keeping track of what I'm trying and
Yeah.
what's working.
Well, we can work on that together. If you are willing to be courageous and vulnerable enough to come in and be like, here's where I'm stuck in judgment about someone, or here's where I noticed I shut down or I was projecting and I'm not sure how to get out of it, but I at least noticed I was doing it, then we can work through that together. And hopefully, our viewers can learn vicariously so they don't have to struggle with them themselves. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember when Jorge was struggling with this. And I remember he and Corinna circled around it, and this is what they chose to do. And then they will have that, they can have a successful vicarious experience. And they don't have to scrape a knee and stumble and fall in the same way that you did, but they can learn from your struggle with it and, hopefully have successful experiences. I love that you're willing to not only name that, but commit to our community. Like, look, I'm going to struggle with stuff. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to bring them here and share them with you. So hopefully, like, they can benefit you and like you can like kind of volunteer as tribute to struggle with things so that people can learn through your struggle.
Yeah, in fact, I have one struggle that is also related to the sovereign,
Yes,
if
please.
I can share about that one.
Hmm.
Um, so I have someone who's visiting me here for a couple of weeks. We met a few months ago in Mazunte. She lives in New York. I live in Mexico, so we don't see each other a lot, but she was here for a couple of weeks. And then the day she arrived, we had like a situation where I got upset.
Hmm.
Um, and I, for some reason, didn't express it in that moment. My train of thought was like, yeah, once she's here, I'll feel better, and like I don't want to make a big deal out of it. And I just kind of sat on it. And then I could feel for like the first few days this like tension. It was like we were here together, but things were not
Hmm.
quite like working.
Hmm.
Um, and then I could notice myself getting triggered by the silliest tiny things, like seeing dirty dishes, and I'll be like, why can't she wash her dishes? Like this is insane. And then I think I just sat on it for too long. And I mean, I say too long, it was maybe 3 or 4 days.
Hmm.
And then when I did, there was one moment in which I was like, okay, this is enough. I'm like sitting here in this discomfort. This is not serving anyone. It's very obvious. We were speaking earlier of like when there's that space of like, we're here. And this was like the opposite. Like, oh, there's this space that almost feels like
Hmm.
tangible something between
Yeah.
us. And then when I finally got to share, like, hey, I'm actually feeling like I was a little bit upset the day you arrived because of the Uber money situation and then the dishes. And when I was saying it, I could see that they were really small things that maybe if I would have said in the moment would have been like a 3. But
Hmm.
because I waited so long,
Yeah, they had
even
grown and festered, and now they're like a 5 or a 7. Hmm.
yeah, and even in the way of expressing it, I was like, wow, this is like really, I'm being very unskillful right now, like not asking for consent, starting a conversation in a moving car where she was no way out. But and then noticing like all of these things of like, wow, I really, it's not only the saying the thing, but only there's also like this aspect because I was thinking of the sovereign a lot these weeks because that
Yeah.
was the first of the weekend workshops.
Hmm.
There's also this component of like when and how to
Yes, like the right
express.
context. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and just seeing how I struggled in both setting the context in a timely manner so
Hmm.
that it didn't become a 5 or 7.
Hmm.
And also even that moment of like I noticed when I started speaking on the car, I was like, this is a mistake. This is no place to have a
Yeah.
conversation. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was one of the struggles of like still noticing that there are some times where first that fear stopped me from sharing
Yep.
because that like yeah, I can just like sit on this and it will go away by itself. And once we spoke, it was actually very easy. Like we spoke the things have been great ever since.
Oh,
But
great.
just that lesson of like, yeah, time and setting up the right context.
Right. Well, and I want to highlight for our listeners like some of the things that you said of like, oh yeah, like I just launched in this conversation without consent and like just that idea of sharing with someone. And I like to state it as like you're sharing the positive intention or like the goal on the other side of the conversation. Like, hey, but it takes some homework to do. Like you have to do some introspection to be like, oh, I noticed that I had some unspoken expectations of how things were going to go. And when they didn't go that way, I was hurt or upset. And I'd love to talk about that. Like, is now a good time? And if not, like, when do you have time to do that? And so it's like not only are you like naming like the headline and the byline of like what you're doing, like, hey, I noticed I've got some unspoken expectations, and then when they were not met, it actually caused wonkiness between us, and I don't want that. So I'd love to like have a conversation about expectations. When's a good time to do that? And so like you're setting the context and you're getting the consent. And I think that'll change a million things. And so I appreciate you're already helping our viewers learn. And like I loved when you were like, oh, I realized like we're in a moving car and I'm confronting her or like ambushing her with this information. Like, well, that's not gonna be conducive for a relaxed exploration. Like I love that insight too. I think that's a good one for our friends because sometimes it is great to like have deep conversations when you're on a hike or when you're on a drive because it takes a little bit of the pressure off because there's other things you guys are paying attention to and you're not like cold, but only if there's consent for it. Like otherwise you can feel trapped of like, okay, we're, a mile and a half up a mountain and he's confronting me with this conversation. Like there's no way to escape it, so like it can be good to have conversations at those times if the other person is also feeling safe and welcomed and warm. So I like that you pointed out the context and the setting the context and the getting consent. And then the other layer of that of yeah, and then once we did, and this is a big one, Jorge, and I think many people experience this. It's one of the biggest uh, builders of resentment in relationships is that we sometimes we don't even know we have an expectation, like an expectation that someone will wash their dish you know, immediately after using it, or at least that evening. And some people are the expectations like, oh yeah, I wash the dishes every other day. Or I build dishes up all day into the night. And then when I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I do in the morning. And it's like, if we have a difference of expectation, but we're not being explicit about it, then you are just gonna like this person's oblivious and you're resentful and they don't understand why the energy is weird and it's like, yep. So that invitation of to notice when you start to brace or start to, judge and be like, okay, what's happening? And then how do I bring this up in a sovereign way? I'm like, yeah, I noticed I felt a little bit like annoyed about the Uber situation, or I noticed I felt, annoyed when I saw your dishes in the sink. And I think that's because I have this expectation or this, kind of norm that I live by. Would you be willing to do that while you're staying with me? Or like, what is your norm? Maybe we can meet each other in the middle. And like, once we do that, it's like you said, it's so simple. Like, nobody feels shamed or criticized. There's no need to like defend or push back. But if you were to approach her and be like, "What's wrong with you that you left dishes in the sink all day?" Now we're almost inviting an argument. There's nothing she can do but defend herself. But if you're like, "Oh yeah, I noticed that this is my preference. What do you usually do?" And she might even say like, "Oh, I wasn't sure where things go, so I wasn't sure if you even wanted me to be, washing dishes." Or like in my family of origin, it's insulting if a guest tries to, wash dishes, and I didn't want to insult you, but now that I know that you're cool with it, I'm happy to do them. But it's like we've got to be brave enough to get these things out in the open. And was that your experience as well of like once they were out in the open, it was an like relatively easy and graceful conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an intense conversation because the immediate thing was, and again, maybe it was the context, but the immediate thing was like, yeah, but you also, blah, 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 blah. So then we went kind of like from tension that felt like this
Hmm.
to tension that felt like this.
Uh-huh.
But then once that released, the actual thing with the dishes and the Uber, like the catalysts were so easy. And then it
Yes.
was just like, oh yeah, like I'm sorry, like I can do that for sure. That's
Yeah.
it. It was very simple.
Yeah.
Um, and really the whatever was released from that conversation ever since has not come back in that way. Both in the practicalities, I think we're just more aware of each other's preferences.
Hmm.
Um, and there was something I like how that example of like, oh, in my family of origin, it's like this.
Hmm.
Like it could be insulting because really I noticed that after the conversation, what really changed in me is that all of these judgments of like, ah, this person doesn't care enough and I'm not being like recognized in my effort or whatever are not there anymore. Like they just
Hmm.
kind of dissipated. Um, just
Yes.
by hearing her saying like, "Oh, no, like I'm sorry, I just thought, I it didn't seem super relevant for me to do it quickly, but I see that to you is like this is how you like your house. I can do that for sure." And
Yeah.
that's it, that was it. And then I spent like these 3 days having these
Yeah.
judgments,
Like she doesn't
giving
respect
so much
me. Yes.
meaning,
She's
yeah,
not, yeah, she's taking me for granted. She doesn't appreciate.
yeah,
And it was like, nope, that wasn't it at all. And it's
yeah,
so funny because, the human mind is a meaning making structure. Like we cannot help but impart meaning onto the things that we observe. But, we're only right anywhere from 10 to 80% of the time, and like even with the 80% where we are right, it's always good to get shared reality of like, and so yeah, I like to remind myself and all of our students, like anytime you feel some sort of bracing or grinding about what is happening and the meaning you are making of it, it's important to check out if that person has, like, if their intention matches your meaning making, and you'll get this in the Explorer workshop that you'll be doing at the end of the month. We have this teaching piece. We call it the three-legged stool about facts and feelings and meaning. And it's like, so it's like the observable facts, like the thing that happened. And then usually that either inspires an emotion, and then from that emotion you derive meaning, or it inspires a meaning making, and then the meaning making inspires a feeling. And when those get collapsed on each other, bad news. But if you can slow it down enough to go like, oh yeah, I observed this happening, or I experienced this, and then here's what I interpreted it to mean, and so then this is how I felt, or like, and here's how I felt about it, and so that inspired this kind of meaning making. And slow down enough to check like, oh, like, when this thing happens, this is how it occurs for me. Is that how it occurs for you, or is that what you were intending? And give them space to go, oh, no, 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 I wasn't intending it to be disrespectful, or I wasn't, like, I didn't realize it would land for you, as, you know, taking me for granted or not being appreciated. I just, yeah, I work on a different timeline. But now that I know that this timeline is important to you, I will definitely, try to abide by it. And now you're all of a sudden feeling respected and considered, where in your vacuum, you were consistently feeling like not considered and possibly even disrespected. And it was like, oh, see how, and when we can be brave enough to, like, and this is how I always say, like, you can do or say almost anything if you do it in a sovereign manner. Like, because if you're like, you did this and this is what it means, that's gonna, and like, you're inviting an argument. But if you're like, oh, when you did this, here's how it occurred for me, is that true for you, or am I misinterpreting it? Like, there's no room to argue there. Like, you and so I like how you said that, like, it might have been the context that invited it to get more heated, and then it dissipated. And had we, known enough to be more intentional, more careful about the context, it might not have, peaked and then dissipated. It might have just dissipated. So I look forward to you paying attention to that and exercising that, more over the months, and reporting back to us of like, how's it going for you?
Yeah, I'm also looking forward for that. And looking forward to the explore after hearing you speak about the meaning and the facts and the feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe then we'll meet a month after your explorer, and you can tell us about your own experience with the facts, feelings, meaning triad, and how you're applying that.
Yeah. I'm excited for doing that meeting.
Yeah. Anything else you want our community, to know about you today, or anything that you're wanting to share to feel complete for this conversation?
Mm, yeah, maybe one more story. It's a short one.
Yes, please.
Uh, so I went out with someone that I had just met, and we went deep into conversation. It was beautiful. This person was so different from the kind of people that I hang out with at my yoga little town. And what was really like the memory I take from that conversation, at one point she told me like, wow, I realize I've been speaking for like 5 hours nonstop. Like for all I know, you could be a psychopath. I know nothing of you. And it's funny because she was like, I don't usually do this, like I don't know where this is coming from. And I don't know, I just thought it was for me because I was applying some things and
Hmm.
I was really getting curious, especially because again,
Yes.
after like hanging out with so many yoga teachers,
Hmm.
seeing someone that's like, oh yeah, I run an AI team for a big bank. It's like, oh, like, how's that life? That's so like I'm feel so foreign to what I'm used to. But just even seeing in her the impact of like, wow, I'm usually not like this. And I realize I've just been speaking about myself. And then I ask her like, how does that feel for you? Do you feel like uncomfortable with it? Because I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
But even noticing that how for me it felt like, oh, there's a lot of connection here. Like I'm enjoying this. And
Yeah.
for her, it also felt that way, but kind of not in the moment, but like a little bit after, like that moment of, wait, what just happened here? And
Yes.
that was, I just felt very grateful also for the practices, especially knowing my like 7 years ago, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, I would be consistently in a situation like this, thinking like, how can I get conversation unstuck? Like it feels so unnatural for me to get to meet a new person, whereas now it was just like, "Phew, let's go." And that's something that
Yes.
I really like in my personal life have a lot of gratitude for
Yeah.
authentic relating and circling towards.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And it's so true. And we get a lot of these stories from our students as they graduate of like, oh yeah, I used to struggle to hold a conversation, or I used to be anxious about like, what's the next interesting question I have to ask? Or like, how do I share something interesting about myself to keep this person engaged? And then when they learn to just genuinely trust their innate curiosity, and they learn how to ask the deepening questions and the clarifying questions, and you learn how to reflect back and paraphrase back to move the exploration forward, then you can find yourself in these like hour-long flow conversations. And that is something that we hear people say a lot too, of like the with our circlers, of like someone will say, I've shared more with you in this, 1 hour conversation than I share with some of my friends I went to high school with, or like even my family members know about me. And it's not like we do some hypnotic magic, but by genuinely relaxing into your own curiosity, and like not having an agenda, and like suspending any judgment or criticism, but really inviting them to share, they'll share things that they didn't even, that they start to clarify things they didn't even know about themselves. Like when you ask her like, well, how is it for you to do that, she's like, I don't know, no one's ever asked me. And then she thinks about it and she shares, and then sharing that inspires her to feel and experience other things that she wants to share. And I think it's such a rich and rewarding space to be in, and that's what I love most about our cohorts, because it's lovely to do that with someone, but if it's all you're doing and you're the only one generating it, after a while, it can feel a little disappointing of like, oh, but no one's getting my world in the
Mhm.
same rich way that I seem to be able to get everybody else's world. And then everybody wants to be best friends with me and they're like, so love being in my presence, but it's not reciprocal. But when you join the cohort and you have these people, it's going to be reciprocal. So like you're going to be able to be on the receiving end of that same like beautifully, curious conversation about someone wanting to know about you.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I feel how excited I am just hearing you say that.
Yeah. And so that is, I do. I love that you wanted to end with that story of like, yeah, I met this person and we just kind of flowed in conversation for hours. And she was like, what just happened here? And it's like, yep, you're feeling really grateful for that evolution of like, you used to be someone who like felt awkward in those situations and struggled and had a little anxiety around it. And now you're able to like facilitate a like beautiful, rich, flowing conversation that someone realizes, oh, like, this is not typically how I work, but it has felt so good. And I felt so, kind of open and generous with my, time and my sharing. I'm glad you're having those experiences. And I'm looking forward to you being on the receiving end of those experiences as well.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited for the upcoming months and all the practice.
Cool. All right, Ori. Well, it has been lovely for me to get to know you more through this, time that we've spent together, and I'm looking forward to even more as the course continues.
Thank you, Corinna. It's been lovely to share.
Thank you.